What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to From The Bench Vols. I'm your host, Will Meadows, and welcome to our Friday edition of the show. We've got a little bit of football to talk about, a little bit of basketball to talk about, and to help us talk about it all, we have Tennessee topic and Sports Illustrated writer Caleb Sisk to help us with all of that. And before we get into any of that, make sure you guys subscribe to this channel, leave a like, leave a comment, share it to whoever you like. I appreciate you guys for joining us on this Friday morning. So like I said, we have a special guest on the show. We're not going to talk too much, just us. We got a great interview right there. I think it's about 20 minutes, but I think we're just going to go straight to that. Without further ado, let's welcome in Caleb Sisk. And everybody, welcome in Caleb Sisk, owner of Tennessee Topic and a writer for the Tennessee Sports Illustrated page. How are you, man?
Doing good, man. Thank you for having me on. How you doing?
I'm great, man. Can't complain. So we've got him on the show. I know we talked a little bit about this before we had him on the show, but we all know the craziness that has gone on just the last week or so. We're a week removed from all the craziness and drama going on at the quarterback position. I know Josh Heupel was on the Tennessee Caravan or interview or something like that, and was saying like this isn't the Nico Iamaleava situation anymore; it's the Joey Aguilar situation. So,
Right.
a week removed from that, how are you feeling? Just one about the quarterback situation, but two about the offense as a whole.
Man, it definitely changes things. You're going into the season, and originally you're expecting, okay, you're getting Nico Iamaleava back for at least one more season. You got the guy that carried you from last season all the way over to this season.
Yeah.
So you have someone there who's experienced in the offense, who's already done it. It's a little different when you bring in a guy, even though you're getting an experienced guy out of Joey Aguilar in the portal. You also got to remember he's experienced elsewhere. He isn't experienced in the Tennessee system. So it's going to shake things up a little bit, which makes everything kind of, a little, I'm not going to say complicated, but competitive between guys like him and Jake Merklinger. Jake's been in the system already for 1 year, and he has less experience at this point in the Tennessee system than George McIntyre
Yeah,
has.
yeah.
So it's really kind of a shaky situation. But at what point do you kind of look more into the experience that they have at the college level is what I'm thinking. So how much is that a value? I think it's a big value personally, just looking, even from the outside looking in. You need an experienced quarterback here, regardless if he's going to start or not. You needed that in your depth chart. And I think Josh Heupel and Tennessee Volunteers did a great job going out and getting Joey Aguilar.
Yeah, it's really like it's a situation. It's one of a kind, really. I mean, obviously we haven't seen a trade as it is,
Right.
but even within the QB room, like you're saying, like George McIntyre's was supposed to be is supposed to be a senior in high school, and he's got more experience than a guy who's about to be a senior in college. Just in the terms of the Tennessee scheme, which is kind of a hard scheme to learn in its own. But how do you feel? If Joey Aguilar is to get that spot, me personally, I think he's going to be pretty dadgum good. His problem in the past in the App State was taking care of the football. And in my opinion, Josh Heupel's offense is a very quarterback friendly offense. I mean, there's a lot of times where I'd question Joe Milton's decision making, but he still only threw 4 picks in his time as a
Right.
starter. So, how do you feel like Joey Aguilar can kind of flow in this offense?
Yeah. I mean, you look back and it felt like last season was a little bit more bumpy than the season he had prior to that. Um, just the interceptions, when you look at it, I believe it was 24 interceptions in the past 2 seasons. That's a lot. That's high for any quarterback. But
Yeah.
also, you got to look at the upside there. Look at his passing yards.
Yeah.
So you really got to, I mean, he was over 3,000 yards both years, right? So, I mean, he's a guy who's going to sling the ball. One of my great friends and someone I've talked to, his name's Brooks Austin. He does the film guy. You look back at him and how he broke down the film, and he was talking about you go from a guy like Nico where you're like, okay, you need to let this ball go a little bit more in these tight coverages, and you get to a guy like Joey Aguilar where you're like, okay, you need to hold back a
Yeah,
little
dial
bit
it down a
more.
little
So
bit. Yeah.
so it's definitely it's a different situation, but at the same time, I mean, I'm very intrigued, very interested, and man, it's going to be fun to watch just because he is not afraid to throw the ball. He's going to let that thing go. If he could throw it deep, he's going to throw it deep.
Yeah, he
I mean,
will.
he showed that at App State. I thought he was going to be a great, I thought it was just going to be so fun to watch him at UCLA and now Tennessee. And you know how that system is, and, spreading the wide receivers
If
out
you can
wide and
connect on a
letting them
deep ball,
go.
you
So,
should. Yeah, if you can
yeah, I
connect on a
mean,
deep ball, you can really play in this offense. And I really do think too, like he does have not a cannon, but really does like to let it go.
right.
Um,
Like he does have a cannon, regardless if he
yeah,
does or doesn't.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think we're also just kind of spoiled in the last few years. Like when we think Cannon, Joe Milton could throw the ball dang near the end zone to the end zone, and then Hendon Hooker had a crazy arm too. But
Oh yeah.
aside from his, his cannon, I guess you'd say the dude's not a bad athlete. And
No.
especially in our RPO offense that Josh Heupel likes to run, like I think his legs are going to play a huge factor early in the year, especially if he gets that job because, he's not very experienced in our offense. Like I feel like in games like Syracuse, which is not a first game that's typically easy, like we have like had Bowling Green in past years and things like that. Like it's
Ball
gonna be
State, stuff
yeah,
like that.
it's gonna be a really not a tough and not a hard game, but a tough game, a tough one to come out with
Yeah.
with the drama that we've had this offseason. So I really feel like his legs are going to help our offense early in the year.
Yeah, and it also goes back to the fact that your offensive line isn't the most experienced in the SEC. I mean, you're losing multiple starters. Majority of your offensive line that you did lose from last season was starters. So you got a new group of guys. You're even looking at potentially playing freshmen. You got David Sanders out there, who's the front runner for the tackle position. So you got a whole new group of guys. Eventually, things aren't going to fire at all or on all cylinders. It's just nature of it when you have a new group of guys who aren't working together for 3-4 years.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just typical. So I agree with you. I think he's going to have to use his legs a little bit. He showed that he can do that at App State, and the game picks up a little bit when you get to a place like Tennessee. So we got to see how that goes. But I think if he can carry what he did over at App State in big situations where he can use his legs, I think he'll be dangerous in that aspect for Tennessee.
Yeah, and you kind of hit on it a little bit earlier when you were talking, but Aguilar's the big name. There's no doubt about it. It's been the national media in the
Right.
NCAA for a while, but I mean, there's still guys. I don't think George McIntyre personally has really any chance, and just in my humble opinion. But then a guy like Jake Merklinger may not be the guy that wows you at practice, but it's obvious that these guys through these tough times have kind of rallied around Jake Merklinger. That they were posting on Instagram. I mean, I know they're all buddies at the end of the day, but like he's taken some of the guys to church on Easter. Like there's no doubt
Yeah.
about it. These guys have gone through a tough time with all this national media coverage and the whole world's thinking that they're falling apart. Like
Yeah.
in the QB room, whether he starts or not, like how do you think these guys will get better around each other?
Man, it's just competition. Like entering this season, we all knew, okay, Nico's your guy.
Yeah,
You can't tell anybody right now who the quarterback at Tennessee is going to be come fall. I mean, it's just all just an educated guess. We're all making a prediction at the end of the day. I mean, assuming no injuries, this is anyone's game. I know you said that you don't feel George McIntyre has a chance. Me personally, I was covering the orange and white game. I felt that George McIntyre actually was the
he
quarterback that
he,
looked
he
the
did look the
best.
best. Yeah,
So I think George McIntyre deserves a chance. Ideally, what you want to do is obviously redshirt McIntyre if he's not the guy. There's no reason to burn that red shirt for him to be a backup unless there's an injury or he's genuinely the best guy and you can throw him up there to be a starter. I don't see that being the case just because you did go get an experienced quarterback now. But however, if they were to get a quarterback like I know, I believe his name was Trevor Jackson from Florida State was thrown out there, and guys like who doesn't have the experience that a guy like Joey Aguilar had. I think it was very fair that George McIntyre could have been in the
yeah.
conversation. Right now, it feels more like Jake Merklinger and Joey Aguilar. And I think the competition is just going to bring them closer. It's all about competition at the end of the day. I mean, we haven't had, or well, we haven't seen, I should say, we haven't seen a quarterback competition really in the Tennessee quarterback room in quite some time.
Since the first year of
Because
Milton and Hooker,
right. And even then, you got Milton, you got Hooker, you got I believe Maurer was on the team right before he transferred. I think he transferred in the
Taven
spring.
Jackson.
Yeah, you had gosh, I'm blanking.
But
Harrison
yeah,
Bailey.
yeah, 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 yeah.
Harrison Bailey. So you had plenty of dudes there that was competing. And I like the fire that brings into the quarterback room. And you want to see not only, hey, who's going to be the best quarterback to lead me through the fall, but you're going to see how these other guys click with them. How a guy like Mike Matthews clicks with them. How a guy like Chris Brazzell clicks with them. Everything kind of has to fall together into what, picture is painted the prettiest. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah.
So there's so many things that go into it, but man, I'm fired up to see how this quarterback competition goes because I think it's going to bring the team together overall.
Yeah, and I think that's what I kind of said when he committed last week. Like, regardless if the guy starts, like
Yeah.
either he's going to start and be all right for us, or he's going to make Jake Merklinger a hell of a lot better. Like these guys
Yeah.
are going to get better together, regardless, because you're right, it's going to be a great competition. But I'm excited to see. You're exactly right. Me and when I had Eric Kane on the show not too long ago, like it was I think the day before he committed. Like we were saying, like is it chaotic? Yes, but it's almost brings more fun and it's more intriguing in a way. Like,
It's better from the fan perspective.
yeah,
Everyone wants to see competition. Everyone wants to see who's got it in them to go out there and win this job and stick around for the power tee.
yeah,
And that's what fans want to see at the end of the day. Yeah, it's great to know that you have security at the quarterback position, but when there's a QB competition, which is something Tennessee doesn't really experience much, I mean, it just brings a whole different feeling towards it. And I think it's great for the fans and the program as a whole.
and like you were saying too, like you got to click with Mike Matthews, you got to click with Chris Brazel. Like the term "win the locker room over" comes around, and like
Yeah,
I said, Merklinger has kind of have the locker room right now, but win the locker room is yes as a leadership role, but also you're right, clicking with receivers. I mean,
right.
you see it all the time in football. Just for an example, like Will Howard. I know Tennessee fans may not be too fond of that name, but like when Will Howard went to the NFL Combine, Will Howard is a good quarterback, very accurate quarterback. He goes
Right.
to the Combine with some guys that he's never thrown before, and he's just throwing it all over the parking lot. It looks kind of ridiculous because he just
Yeah.
it's so much timing, and I just think that winning over the locker room doesn't necessarily mean being the best leader, but it also has got to be because it's almost like a receiver's decision too.
Exactly. I mean, you got to find guys that's going to connect. At the end of the day, when you have guys that's not connecting, that's going to show on the field. The last thing you want is a misconnection between your quarterback and your wide receiver, your quarterback and running back, or quarterback and tight end, which we've seen that at Tennessee so many
Yeah,
times that it's just, I know Tennessee fans are sick of it. At the end of the day, you have to go with the guy that is most connected to your room, which by nature, a lot of people are going to say is Jake Merklinger. But
yeah,
if you have a guy like Joey Aguilar who comes in, he connects with that room and connects good enough, and then he goes out there and he does better than Jake Merklinger
and that's your
or
guy.
shows his more experience, why not give it to him? He
Yeah,
has experience. He's gonna have that feeling of, oh, hey, I got to step up in this situation. I'm used to this situation where Jake Merklinger just isn't used to it. Like last year, he was the third string quarterback,
was
and
never
a
put in
lot
the
of fans are
position to
put
really make a.
right. A lot of fans are putting a lot of weight on his shoulders because they have to now. I mean, originally he's your quarterback, especially when Nico left, and of course, Gaston Moore left for the portal. I mean, he's your quarterback now,
Yeah,
and then bringing in Joey Aguilar, I think overall it's best for business. I think they had to go get a quarterback. I said it and said it and said it. A lot of people are like they didn't have to go get a quarterback, but in my opinion, regardless if he's a starter or he's a role player,
they
you
needed it.
need someone.
Yeah,
So I'm glad that for Tennessee's sake that they did go get a quarterback.
yeah, and kind of switching over. That's a lot of football there. But how you were saying, we filled that position. Rick Barnes and his staff are starting to finally fill out this roster. Obviously, we've
Yeah,
lost so many seniors, a few guys like Cameron Carr and things of that nature. But
yeah,
we've got our European, we've got our highest rated recruit of all time, and guys like Troy Henderson, who obviously Rick Barnes sees some stuff in if he's going to let him commit. But how do you feel about this Tennessee basketball team going into next year? Because I know people on my show, if you're a regular watcher, like I feel very good about next year's
oh yeah,
basketball team.
yeah. I would be lying if I said that there wasn't doubts, at least from me, from the media perspective entering this last season.
Yeah,
There was some doubts. And I mean, you're losing a lot of guys similar to this season. You're losing a lot of guys. Let's just assume no one can come back. Losing Zakai Ziegler is a much bigger deal than a lot of people are going to make it out to be.
hmm
He's been there for 4 years, and he's been a guy that's played for 4 years, started for three of them. Um, Aside from going down with his knee injury and then the first year being a role player to Kennedy Chandler,
yeah,
now you're bringing in what I believe is one of the better freshman classes in Tennessee history.
yeah,
I think it goes all the way down. I know you were naming a lot of players. Amari Evans, That's a guy that I
Seems like
look
the
at.
Rick Barnes type of recruit.
Oh, I swear, and I watch him, and I'm like, there's no way that this guy isn't going to make an impact. Even if it's not year one, I mean, this guy is. If he's not the top tier recruit in your class, you're doing something right.
Yeah.
So, going and getting Nate Ament, that's huge. Obviously, probably a one and done just from
Yeah.
outsider looking in. I don't have anything to say in that camp, obviously, but just outsider looking in, it screams one and done. But hey, this roster looks so good, especially with bringing in Jacoby
Yeah.
and having him at guard. And I swear Jordan Gainey every day is like teasing something different. So who
We talked
knows?
about that on the last episode. I'm like, guys, because I have people and I tell them all the time. I was like, you can reach out to me if you have any questions. But we were talking about like what the lineup could look like next year if we got
Yeah.
Darius Adams, which we ended up missing out on him.
Yeah.
But I was like, you guys can text me, but I don't know with the thing with Jordan Gainey.
Right.
I was getting at least like 5 texts a day about is Jordan Gainey going to come? I was like, I don't know. I'm seeing the teasers too, but I mean, the dude's going to be like how he's like shooting in Thompson Bowling Arena. Like, obviously, he's allowed in Thompson Bowling Arena, but he's doing a little more than you'd think for somebody who's graduated. Like,
Right. Yeah. I mean, not typically the guy that you're looking at and saying, oh, he's going to be drafted in the NBA draft either. So, I mean,
yeah, it's an awkward situation, and especially like, there's no doubt he'd want to come back because his dad's a coach.
exactly. Yeah. And, a big part of the staff as well, especially I know now you look at a guy like Rod Clark, who isn't there no more.
Yeah,
I expect him to be in a big role. And, if Tennessee could bring back any of those guys, ideally, you would probably want it to be a guy like Gainey or a guy like Ziegler. Those two bring a lot to this team. I felt like Gainey stepped up. That was your most
huge.
improved player from last season. So I think ideally, if you can get him back, there's no way you tell him no.
Yeah.
And this roster, regardless if they get him back or not, this roster's in a good spot. If they can work together and they can get a whole lot of things figured out, this is one of the deepest rosters that Tennessee's going to have. Especially considering the turnover in a very long time, in my opinion.
Exactly, I 100% agree. And it's like you were saying with Amari Evans, like I've talked about him before, and I've always said like growing up, I've heard like he doesn't look like a regular 18-year-old, and it was kind of funny. Like I was saying, like Amari Evans doesn't look like a normal 18-year-old, and I was
Yeah.
like, look at me, I'm a normal 18-year-old, and then look up Amari Evans, like that dude. He seems like the type of Rick Barnes player, like a
Mhm.
back-to-back OTE Defensive Player of the Year, like
Yeah.
just screams Rick Barnes and. You're right. Like, there's a chance that he might not even step on the floor. That just shows how deep this team could be next year.
Yeah. I mean, you're still returning some guys. Like you got Akpara coming back. He's going to be huge. Cade Phillips, he took
Yeah,
such a
hugely.
big
Yeah.
step. I mean, having him there, that's huge. You're going to get a guy like Estrella back from his injury, and Bishop Boswell.
He's
I
got to
mean,
make a jump, man. We've talked about it on here, but you got to make a jump. Got to hope to
mm,
see some improvement out of him. And then JP Estrella's coming back too. So you're right. There's a lot of returners, and I feel like it balances itself out well. One, with their game styles. I mean, you've got a guy like Amari Evans, and then you got a guy like Nate Ament in the recruitment. One's a defensive, arguably the best defender in the class,
right.
regardless of Tennessee, the whole country. And then Nate Ament, you can make a case as the best scorer in the entire 25 class. And,
Yeah.
and I feel like one, their game styles complement each other, but we've got guys like Okpara and Cade Phillips and JP Estrella who have been here and have learned from leaders like Zakai Ziegler and Jemai Mashak. And I feel like that is going to, you're right, Nateman's probably going to end up being a one and done, but it's going to be the same type of deal. Like they're going to end up teaching guys like Amari Evans and Troy Henderson and freshmen like that and new guys like that. Even Jacoby Gillespie's a senior, but it's his first year at UT, so he's going to be learning too, right along with him.
Yeah. And I mean, just if things go well, it sets up for recruiting, which is a big part of what we feel has been missing. A
Yeah,
part of Rick Barnes and his staff has been recruiting. They go get the diamonds in the rough, but you can't really land the top guy.
rely on you can't and
Yeah,
you
I
can't
know.
rely on those either.
I know you've landed multiple 5 stars, but some of them just didn't work out like you wanted them to.
Yeah.
For some reason, it just feels a little different when Nate Ament.
Yeah, I 100% agree. It feels less of a project guy and more of a get him the ball and go get a bucket type of guy.
Right. It feels more ready. I know a lot of people talk about how they felt when Julian Phillips committed, but for some reason it just feels a little bit different
Yeah,
nowadays.
for sure. Well, Caleb, I really do appreciate you for coming on the show. I think that's going to
So,
wrap up this interview. Everybody, make sure you guys go follow his Instagram page. I guess, is it on Twitter as well?
yeah, you can follow me on Twitter at Caleb Sisk _, which is my personal Tennessee topic. Not really active on Twitter over there, but you can follow my Instagram at Caleb Sisk _ and my other Instagram at Tennessee topic. You can find my writing as well on Vols on SI. That's on Facebook. That's on Twitter, and of course Safari or Google or wherever you get your articles. Everything's free. No reason to pay for subscriptions when you can get all the content for free anyway. So come check it out.
Yes, sir. Make sure you guys go check him out. I appreciate you for coming on, man.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
And another big thank you to Caleb Sisk for coming on our show today. I greatly appreciate him coming on. And you heard him. Make sure you guys go follow his social medias. If you didn't hear him, rewind about 15 seconds and go hear him correctly. Go follow his everything on social media, his personal account. And then Tennessee Topic is widely known as one of the best Tennessee pages on social media. Over 20,000 followers, verified on Instagram. So make sure you guys go give that a follow. But I think that's going to wrap it up for our episode today, our Friday edition of From the Bench Vols. Before we end this, make sure you guys subscribe to the channel, leave a like, leave a comment, and I think that's going to wrap it up for today's episode. I greatly appreciate you guys joining. I hope everybody has a great weekend, and go Vols.